All right. Hey, Blasphemers, hang tight. Dave Warnock is our guest, and we're about to start the show right
now.
Woo! Hey, Blasphemers, welcome to Simple Blasphemy, where we have the best times with the worst topics.
We're three friends that discuss everything and nothing, from wacky headlines to games and trivia. All subjects bizarre and risque are on the table.
Our weekly guests range from friends, musicians, and artists to professionals in a variety of industries.
We go live on Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Want to support the show? Join our Patreon. You can find it and more at www.simpleblasphemy.com.
So grab a drink and join in!
It's too late now. This is Simple Blasphemy.
All right. We don't do the fake clapping, so we just add our own, just like that. Welcome to the Simple Blasphemy podcast, all you blasphemers out there, including BWB Wrestling Network, who got his drink and is a first-time listener. Cheers to you. My name is Zach Ward, and I have here with me always, Andy is not here. Shout out to Andy on his vacation, and Mr. Zach Green. Yep. No. Okay. All the info about the show can be found at simpleblasphemy.com. And if you click that like, share, and subscribe button, you'll receive 5 years of what this time? Green, do you have a 5 years of?
So there's nothing. There's nothing. I'm gonna give that up to Dave.
5 years of something, Dave?
5 years of jelly beans.
Okay. I was going to say bubbles in your bathtub.
I was thinking Skittles, but
we were close.
We're on the same wavelength.
We were close, Green. Yeah.
As mentioned, this week's special guest is none other than Dave Warnock. Dave, how are you today?
Good. I got to know. Okay, now there's two Zachs, so I'm going to say Green and Ward.
Yep.
I got to know what that thing back and forth behind you, Green, is. What the hell's going on there? Is that
It's slowing down. No, that's actually going around and around, and that's my turntable that I have my second drink. Mixing as we speak.
It's not
Love
shaking.
Love it.
Not
Anyway.
shaken, stirred.
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Julio says 5 years of Van Halen riffs.
Yes!
That's even better than jelly beans.
We'll say all of those. Dave, I hunted him down. I begged, I pleaded. I've been watching Dave online for quite some time, mostly through the atheist experience. So thank you so much for joining us. And we like to start the show off with just a few questions. So we'll do question number one first. What is the worst job you've ever had?
Car salesman.
Okay. Any specific reason at all, or just dreadful?
It's just awful. Yeah. You sit on the lot and you wait for suckers to come in and you pounce on them, and they're very wary of you. The whole process is just messed up.
Yeah. Then you got people saying you're stealing their sale, and
I hated it.
That one guy is like the overachiever.
I was that one guy, probably. No.
Was it? Did you say it was used cars?
It was new and used. Chrysler dealership. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sorry to hear that. Let's go on to something more positive then.
Yeah, I'm already down now. I gotta go. I can't do this.
What the second question is? What does the word equality mean to you?
God, it's just a level playing field, whether it's race or income or gender. It's a level playing field for everyone, so that no one has an advantage, because of their race or their social standing or the family they were raised in or their gender. And just we see inequality everywhere we look. And this nation is probably leading the world in inequality. And it was, founded on taking away from people things that were theirs to advance your agenda, the white European agenda. So that's what it means to me.
That's awesome. Every time, Green, we get someone answers that, it's amazing, and it comes from just different perspectives. I absolutely love it.
I like talking about that kind of stuff rather than poop and peep.
Our normal,
all the crap that we used to talk about.
Yeah.
Unintended.
So we are
that actually means stuff.
Yeah.
We basically we're gonna just deep dive into your story, and let's just start off by, where did you grow up? Did you have brothers and sisters? How was the formative years for Dave?
I've got 2 brothers and a half sister. Grew up in Arkansas, unfortunately. Anthony Magnabosco, my man. Y'all know Anthony, right?
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. Sorry. Yeah, I grew up in the rural Arkansas, and I was a product of a broken home. My parents split up when I was 8. Mom remarried when I was 10, and so my stepdad raised us. And then along came a half sister a few years after that. And it was a very normal, non-religious upbringing. We were pretty poor, lived out in the sticks of Arkansas. Went to high school. After high school, was planning to tentatively go to college in a year or two. I wanted to save money for college because we didn't have any money. And I was thinking of being a sports writer. I liked to write and I liked sports. But in between my high school and getting into college, Jesus interrupted. And I was caught up in the Jesus movement and got swept up in that at the age of 18 in 1973 and spent the next 3.5 decades as an evangelical Christian. Got into ministry during those years, was on staff at churches. Didn't go to a seminary. I wasn't like a trained pastor prophet, but I was just called and anointed by the Holy Spirit. And so that's all you needed in the circles we ran in. And so that was kind of where I was for all those years.
Can you describe this picture right here?
Oh, God. Where did you find that? I know where you found it. Yeah.
Nice.
Fucking Seth Andrews.
Yeah, thank you for the interview, Seth. I screenshotted that bad boy.
Oh my God! My fiance Bevan sent him that, and I didn't realize that she had sent it to him until I saw it on the video, and I thought, oh my God! Yeah, that was me in the Jesus movement as right after high school with a big old wooden cross around my neck.
We have to look at this one more time.
No, we don't. We really don't. Clearly, I peaked in high school. That was my senior picture.
Very Partridge-esque.
Well, that was the, hey, we're the monkeys. That was what was hot then.
Yeah.
God.
So how did you, so you fell into Jesus and.
Yeah. How does one get swept up in Jesus? Because I know a couple people that the same thing happened to. And, and some of them were like the last people would ever thought that even beforehand, never went to church and just religion wasn't their thing. And then all of a sudden they get swept up, so to speak. And then like they hit it hardcore. And I'm blown away. Like what's the process? What happens? How does one get?
What did Green miss? Is usually
what he likes to ask. Sometimes I feel like I've missed out.
You didn't. Trust me, you didn't. It's here's the thing. Jesus preys on the vulnerable. Typically, that's children, and they're brainwashed before they develop the thinking skills. I had no excuse. I wasn't raised in it, but I was vulnerable. I was a bit without direction in those years after high school, was trying to find my bearings, didn't have a lot of guidance from my parents or anyone else. And so I was vulnerable, and my older brother had gotten saved in college the year before. Back then, the Jesus movement was kind of sweeping the country. Jesus is Just All Right with Me, the Doobie Brothers. You had Jesus Christ Superstar. You had Godspell. It was popular. Jesus was hot, if you will. And so that was a thing that was happening around the country among the young people. So I went with my brother to several meetings of very excited young people, and I thought, you know what? This is something going on that's exciting, and I don't have anything going on in my life that's exciting. And so, when people tell you that if you join this club, all the answers are given to you. If you read this book, all the answers are given to you. Well, if you're a young person who has more questions than answers, then you're going to fall prey to that. And that's what happened to me. And it gave me something to belong to, gave me something to be a part of that was bigger than me, that was more exciting than what I had going on. And so, by the time I got into it, and then, 5 years later, I married a woman who was in the same mindset, and we raised our kids. We had 3 kids, and you just get in and you kind of start going along with it. And then you start living in a bubble, and you never talk to anyone, or you're not around anyone that's not in that bubble. And so it just kind of exacerbates itself. It just kind of multiplies. And before you know it, you're just, then you've got the sunk cost fallacy, and you're in it for 3.5 decades. And then how do you get out?
Yeah. I think that a lot of people ask at this point, like they start going down the path of, how did you, walk your way out of it, and how did you, go that direction? But my question to you is, like, what actually hooked you? Was there a church service? Was there a youth group meeting? Was there a very, exciting youth pastor? Or what actually hooked you to your memory?
That's an interesting question. I'm writing my memoir, and it'll be done this summer. I've got a chapter early into it called "Hooked on a Feeling," and that's exactly
the song just came in. Thanks,
B.J. Thomas. Yeah,
B.J. Thomas.
Yeah, "Hooked on a Feeling."
Yep.
That starts out oompa 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 oompa. Really weird intro. Nonetheless, I digress. I expect one of you guys to be playing that in a minute, but it's a feeling. It's an excitement. Awesome. It's very much an emotional high. It's all about the emotional manipulation, the music, the connection to a deity. We were taught that we had a direct hotline to God. I mean, Jesus Christ was right there. He was listening to every word we said. He would speak to us. We were speaking in tongues. We were praying for healing. We were prophesying. We were casting out devils, all that stuff. So there's just an emotional high that goes along with that. It wasn't some boring church service. In fact, we thought church was boring, and none of that. We weren't into the churches. Amen. They were all dead. They were all dead. We were on fire for God, and we were out on the streets, and I was running coffee houses and street preaching. So there was just an emotional high that goes with it. It is very much hooked on a feeling.
Julio says, in the advent of the
contraception.
Yeah, it had something to do with the evangelical movement uniting and rising in the 70s. Am I right? ? That's actually a good
I don't know. Hadn't thought of that.
I can see that.
Yeah, it
makes sense.
I still think at the 70s, and I was born in 78, so I wasn't there, but just piggybacking off of what my mom experienced, she was married and to her first husband, and then got divorced, and the Catholic Church said, "I'm sorry, you can't come here anymore."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My guess is that a big part of that movement is a lot of people moving away from Catholics and Catholicism simply because of the more popular divorce, I guess. Would you say that? in your experience?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I know that the sexual revolution followed the advent of contraception, obviously. I don't know if the evangelical movement coming into bear on that. That's an interesting concept. But yeah, Catholicism, I mean, the evangelicals didn't proscribe no contraceptives. They definitely prescribed no sex before marriage.
Right.
So that's why young people got married in their early 20s like I did. I was 23 because, man, I wanted to have sex. I wanted to have authorized sex, and you can't if
Authorized, baby.
approved by Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, you wanted him to watch you with approval and saying instead of watching you
With disapproval. I didn't want him wagging his finger at me while he's watching me from the corner. I wanted him going, yeah, man, pound that thing, baby, go.
And now,
You're my boy.
and now in 2021, there's probably a kink for somebody in the corner wagging their finger. Who knows, right?
Jerry Falwell Jr., I think, likes that sort of stuff.
We do not kink shame here.
It's all good.
I feel like I should be better at street epistemology since Anthony showed his face. I should probably do better questioning here.
He's judging you right now. Anthony is.
Probably with his wagging his finger, like, come on, you could do better than that. So you, how long were you in the Christian faith? And of course, the question is, what was the pivot point to, hey, wait a second?
I was in it for 36, 37 years. There wasn't a single pivot point. There were 1,000 little cuts. I used the phrase that I got tired of making excuses for God's poor behavior, because that's what I saw over and over again. I saw a God that wasn't showing up, and I would continue to stuff that somewhere where I didn't have to deal with it. I wasn't interested in a God that wasn't involved in our lives. If it wasn't a personal God that was answering prayer and speaking to us and showing us his will and involved in our lives on a daily basis, then what good is he? What good of a God is it? If a God just spins the world out into existence like a top and then goes on vacation for 100 millennia, and is not involved in the lives of his creation, I don't see the point of even having a God. If we're on our own, then we don't need to be bowing down to a deity and giving him money. So if that God that's supposed to show up and be involved doesn't do it time after time after time after time, then I'm ashamed and embarrassed that it took me 37 years to figure that out. You would have thought that after 10 or 12, you'd go, you know what? Something ain't adding up here. This is a one-way relationship. I keep talking to a spouse in the other room who never answers, and I'm thinking, let me go back there and see if there's anybody there. And I didn't. But finally, I just came to a place in life, later in life, where I thought, this is just not enough. I've got to figure this out. I've got to examine it with an open mind. And that's when I did that about 12 years ago.
And did you find the Clergy Project? Is that one of the places that started? And for people that don't know what that is, would you be able to give a
insight? No,
I
found the Clergy Project after I came to the conclusion that God was not there and had never been there. And so that was a very lonely journey for me of about a year and a half, 2 years of really examining the origins of my faith, the origins of Christianity, the origins of the Bible, or history of the church, looking at material that I'd never allowed myself to look at before, asking questions I'd never allowed myself to ask. When I came to the end of my faith and came to the conclusion that, no, it's not real. It's not true. I believed the lie all these years. The Clergy Project was the first thing I found as I searched the internet looking for people that had lost their faith. I think I typed in the Google search bar, pastors who've lost their faith, and the Clergy Project came up. It is an online forum for current or former clergy who no longer believe in a supernatural deity. And it's a private place. You have to apply to get in. You have to interview with someone. They have to vet you so that you're not some spy coming in there to out somebody. Because there are clergy that are still in the pulpit who don't believe, and they can't come out because they've got to make a living somehow. So I found that. I found Dan Barker. I talked to him on the phone. I found some other ex-clergy, and then I started meeting them in person in Middle Tennessee, where I was living at the time, because I would connect with them online, and then they would say, "Oh, you live not far from here. Let's get together." And so gradually I started forming a brand new community, online and in person. And over the next 4 or 5 years, that became my source of life, if you will. It was like, because I lost all my community when I left faith. I lost most of my friends. I lost some of my family. And I had to rebuild that from the ground up.
So, do you have a regular spot once a month on Atheist Experience? Is that correct in saying? I thought that's what
I'm a regular, what they call a regular co-host. It's not exactly like once a month. It could be once every, like last month I was on 2 weeks in a row. It just kind of depends on who's available, and sometimes we're backing somebody up and that sort of thing.
So my question to you about that, and for people that might not understand this side of it, some people, a lot of people still believe, and that's fine too. But if there was, well, kind of fine. But if
it's not fine at all. They're going to stop that shit right now.
You heard it. If there was something what would be the thing that you point somebody to look at, read, watch, research with this is the first time they're having questions and they come to you like, "Hey, Dave, this is new for me. Where do I go? Where would you point me to get more information as it relates to atheism and that sort of thing?"
Well, Atheist Experience is a good resource for that. Matt Dillahunty has been doing it for 16 years, and then the other hosts on there that rotate out, like myself, we've combined. There's a lot of years of experience in talking through these things and thinking through these things, and then there's a lot of resources out there. Just get on YouTube and look at debates. Recovering from Religion is an awesome organization. Dr. Darrell Ray founded that and runs that, and there's people you can talk to there that you can do a live chat with someone, or actually get someone on the phone, and that's a resource for people who have already left their faith or who are just examining it and want to talk to someone outside the bubble. That's the problem. If you're in faith and in church, anybody you go to talk to about it, I experienced this, they've got their preconceived ideas. They're not going to have an open mind to discuss these things with you. And some people might say, well, yeah, if you talk to the atheists, they don't have an open mind either. That's not true. We don't have an agenda. We're not trying to deconvert anyone. I've never gone out of my way to persuade someone to quit believing. All I've said is ask honest questions. Open your mind. Think for yourself.
Street epistemology is also a fantastic resource.
There you go. Anthony Magnabosco. Look that up. Street epistemology. Anthony has a great way, and that method is a great way to encourage people to ask the questions. And that's the best method, if you will, is just to get people to ask questions honestly and to think for themselves and to get out of the groupthink.
And what you were saying about the bubble thing, I remember going, God, it was somebody in the family. I went to some type of service. I don't know if it was for a wedding or whatnot, but the priest got up there to do a homily or whatever, and pulled out like 5 books about like how these were books that were going against God and these were works of the devil. And like 3 of them I was currently reading. And he continued to go on and say, well, I didn't read these, but these are evil. This is bringing people away from their faith. And I'm like, how can you even have an opinion if you didn't read them? Because I'm thinking to myself, the 3 books that I have are very inspirational for me and helping me to become a better person. And here you're slamming it, saying this is the work of the devil. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But, I see a lot of that crap.
I got in trouble, if you will, with certain people in my life at the time, telling me I shouldn't be reading certain books. They're going to lead me down to and the thing is, I mean, that's the same thing as book burning. You just it's viewed as contraband when all it is just asking people to open their minds and look at something from a different angle.
Yeah, and and that's what I have kids, and that's what I try to tell them. Two things. Number one is I have one rule, and that is make sure everyone around you is comfortable. That's it. That's all you got to do. I don't care what the situation is. Make sure everyone around you is comfortable. And also the second portion of it is be skeptical. I mean, I often try to tell people, or mostly my kids, like, look at it if you're the opposing, attorney in the case. Look at it from different angles. How would you defend this, even though you don't quite believe it? And having that mindset to do so. Now you were actually leading church in some way, shape, or form, right? You're a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
What was like the best part of that job, though? I mean, like, what was something that really even if it was at the beginning and didn't last, what did you love about that?
All the attention I got. I just fucking love attention.
No, I get it.
Like a rock star.
It's the people. I was always very involved with people in their lives. It was said of me that Dave's not afraid to get down in the ditches with you. And I just love people. I love their stories and their lives. And so my pastoral work, I did a lot of preaching and teaching and things like that. But my favorite part of it was just being involved in people's lives and helping them navigate the rough spots. And God, it's the same thing I'm doing now.
Yeah. And what about like the dirt part of it? Was there ever like, when you know a little too much about people or person in your congregation that it starts to get a little awkward? Like, why did this person confess this? Why did they put this on my shoulders?
Yeah, it does get a little heavy, and that's pastors. I think there have been surveys done in terms of professions that are the most stressful and have the most burnout, and pastors are way up high in that list. And it's for that reason, because you are seeing the messy of the messiest of the messes and the dirty of the dirties, and you do end up finding out more than you want to know, and you have to deal with it. It's just you're dealing, and the stress, I think, with pastors, and I experienced this is you would have people come to you with very serious issues, whether it's their marriage or sin in their lives or sickness or a kid had an accident. I mean, all these heavy things, and they're looking to you for answers, and you're going to God to get the answers for them on their behalf or with them, and God ain't showing up.
Yeah.
And you've got it all on your own, but God is supposed to be there with you. And then if something good happens, God gets the credit. If something bad happens, it falls on your ass. Mm-hmm. And so you're stuck in the middle as a spiritual leader, and you're not getting any support from you. You convince yourself that God's there and he's helping you, but at the end of the day, he's not. And the weight of that, it's just like if you were supposed to be carrying a couch up the stairs of an apartment for moving a friend in, and the other person on the other end of that couch is just not doing anything, then you're carrying that couch by yourself. And that's what it feels like. Mm-hmm. Meet me real quick.
You got it. 2 seconds. Here we go.
Okay, I'm back.
Hey, that was fast.
You really got to pay for that to know what he said.
Yeah, that's funny.
So
you're carrying the couch by yourself. That's where we were.
I totally forgot
I know
where I was going, but that's fine. Whatever.
And the person's actually laying on the couch as you're carrying it.
Exactly. That's the problem. You're carrying not only the couch, but that other person's dead weight. And so as a pastor, as a spiritual leader, you're trying to partner with God to help people in your care, and God's not carrying his weight. And after a while, that takes a toll.
Yeah. Is there any? What are your favorite resources to listen to or research from? Are there some people that you really enjoy nowadays?
Oddly, other than what?
The Atheist Experience, you know.
Well, I don't watch that unless I'm on it. So
Sure.
I honestly have been so busy doing my own stuff. I don't have a lot of time to look at other resources. I do like Seth's show, Seth Andrews. I'm kidding. I do watch Atheist Experience here and there, but I don't spend a lot of time. I mean, I'm far enough out of it that I don't need that reinforcement.
Mm.
I don't need that boost to reinforce my ideas about there not being a God. I'm more interested in conversations that just move humanity forward. And those, of course, are going to be secular and atheist from my perspective, because I believe that's the best way to move humanity forward is apart from religion, because I believe religion holds us back and keeps us from moving forward. I think history has proven that. You know, when the religious people were in charge of the world, there's a name for that. It's called the Dark Ages, and progress stopped. So no, I'm more just lately in the last year or two, I've just been so busy doing the Dying Out Loud stuff and writing my book that I just any reading I'm doing is pretty much not research, but helping me to move to get my writing in a better place.
So let's go there, shall we? You divorced Jesus, so to speak, got out of the contract. 10 years later, roughly, right? Mm-hmm. What were you experiencing that made you want to seek medical advice, which ultimately became a diagnosis for Lou Gehrig's disease / I don't know the medical term. I'm sorry.
ALS. That's okay.
Or the
amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Yeah. How did that happen?
I started out, I was working in the insurance business, and I was having trouble writing certain numbers and letters, certain circles were that was my first sign that something was off. And I thought maybe it's carpal tunnel syndrome, or maybe I'm just getting old and weak because I've got a desk job and I'm not physically active enough. So I started working out more in my apartment, and over time, I noticed more and more difficulty with my hands, opening packages, buttoning buttons. Things like that became more difficult. And then signature moments like trying to bowl one time, and I couldn't grip the bowling ball. No strength in my fingers. I couldn't hit a golf club anymore. I'd been playing golf for years. I couldn't play my guitar. I couldn't make my fingers form the chords. So that was all happening in late 2018. And then I started seeing doctors in January of 2019, and then got the formal diagnosis February 26th of that year.
Was there anything that you thought it could have been before, or was it a quick diagnosis? Because, you know, sometimes people go through all these tests. It's like they can't find anything. What was your...
Yeah, that's what happened with me. I did the MRIs and the CAT scans and the blood tests, and you know, they didn't find any deficiencies. They didn't find anything in the blood work. Nothing showed up on X-rays. I was kind of hoping it was some kind of a spinal injury or pinched nerve or something, you know, that could have been corrected with surgery. I knew that ALS was on the table as an option. Mm-hmm. You know, the internet is your best friend and worst enemy. And so when I got the final test called an EMG, I just asked the neurologist to tell me straight up if it was the result. You know, he told me the results would be immediate and very conclusive. And so I just asked him, you know, is it ALS? And he said, yes, it is.
So not too long ago, we had the ALS challenge where people were dumping water on themselves and promoting ALS. But I don't think that, including myself, never quite got a grip on exactly what ALS is. So for those of us that are only familiar with the genius idea that spread through the nation, in my opinion, I mean, it was genius marketing, however that happened. Can you give us and just the listeners a little background on what exactly ALS is in a nutshell? No.
It's a motor neuron disease. It's essentially the nerves in my body quit communicating with the muscles. And when that happens, the muscles aren't given commands, and so they atrophy and they begin to harden. And so I didn't know what the Ice Bucket Challenge was either. I remembered it a thing, and then I remembered, oh, ALS, yeah, that's a thing. It's a bad thing. I don't know what that is, but it's a bad thing. And so when you Google it and start researching it, you realize how bad it is. So it will cause all the muscles in my body to eventually quit working. Mine started in my hands and arms. So my muscles in my arms and shoulders are atrophying, and I'm just getting looking older and weaker in those areas. And it'll eventually spread to my mouth area and affect my speech and swallowing, and eventually to my diaphragm and cause my lungs to quit working. It could also spread to my legs. A lot of people lose their legs. It's different in every person. Mine has been slow progressing, and it's it's been, they give you 3 to 5 years. It's a very broad prognosis. You're going to have 3 to 5 years to live. Well, those 3 to 5 years include a couple of years of really bad, where you're just unable to do anything. Mine has gone much slower than that. So, there was one commenter on one of the Atheist Experience shows a few months back. I don't read the comments very often, but sometimes I do just for entertainment. And he said, "Hey, yeah, hasn't Dave Warnock been dying out loud for like 10 years? What the hell?" Yeah, sorry, buddy, I'm still around.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions on that front. Number one is, what is the longest somebody's lived with ALS? Is there, you're saying 3 to 5, but is there anybody in the 10 to 20, 30?
Well, Stephen Hawking, probably as far as anybody well known, he lived 20 something years with it. Now, most of those years were very debilitated. He couldn't speak, walk, do anything. And I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in how long I could stay alive. I'm interested in how long I can live.
Right.
And so I don't really know. It's so, I've known people who've gotten diagnosed and they were dead in 6 months. Mm-hmm. I've known others who've had it for 10 or 12 years. It's so different. There's so many different varieties of ALS. There's so many different types, and it affects each of us differently. So I have seen, one thing I've seen is that people who get it younger, like in their 20s and 30s, I've seen a pattern there with some people I've gotten to know where they progress down. They call it progression, but it's really digression. But they go down really fast. They lose their ability to walk. Their speech is slurred, and they're basically immobilized in wheelchairs and on feeding tubes. And then they kind of plateau in that condition, and they can be in that condition for 10, 12 years. And that to me is just tragic. Yeah. Because you don't have a life.
Ward, isn't that what Jason Becker has, the guitar player?
Yeah, I've heard about that. Him, yeah.
Is there any type of I did a deep dive as much as I could, I suppose. I don't know everything about ALS, but are there some treatments that are experimental, such as stem cell research or anything that is? I remember I read something about there was a shot that someone was asking for called neuron injection.
Neuron, yeah. Yeah, we're very familiar with that. stem cell treatment. It's out of Israel, and we knew some people that were in that trial, and they got good results. Actually, it slowed the progression. In some cases, stopped the progression. But it was a treatment they had to get every 3 months, and the FDA did not approve it for whatever reason, because it wasn't enough people benefiting from it, like 30% dead. And there's a lot of controversy in the ALS community about that and frustration. Other than that, there's a few experimental drugs out there that show a bit of promise. Nothing that's really like got us jumping up and down. Mm. I'm actually trying to get in a trial myself for a drug or a couple of drugs that, we'll try anything. Yeah. We're dying. And it's frustrating when FDA or drug companies tell us, it doesn't work that well, or there might be a side effect. And we're saying, if it's got a chance of working, I'll sign whatever waiver I need. I'll try it because I have nothing to lose.
Right. Is there like often a lot of people in their 20s and I guess older people too rely on marijuana for fixing all of their needs? Is that something in the ALS community that eases anything?
It chills us out, man.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's speculation about all kinds of things that it kind of inflammation is an issue that some people are pointing to, and the THC and CBD combos. I've had people send me some. I've had people send me all kinds of ideas. Drink cat urine. Just whatever. But they mean well, but most of them are quacks. But yeah, there's a lot of people in the ALS community are experimenting with different concoctions of CBD and THC and combinations. And again, we all say, if you think it helps at all, like I was talking about taking my medicine earlier, they're all just not medicine. It's just vitamins, that Bevan has me on, because if there's a chance that any of them help, we'll do it. We'll try it.
So it's usually not a simple blasphemy podcast without talking about sex in some way, shape, or form. And I've watched enough videos and nobody talks about this. So I'm going to ask you, and even in your group of people that are your support group or people that you hang out with or chat with in ALS, what is sex for somebody with ALS? Is it like, hey, listen, lady, I've got like limited time every day? Or is it, let us in on this?
Well, it doesn't affect it. That's the thing about the penis is it's not a muscle. So
What?
It doesn't affect the penis. Well, it's not, maybe it's a muscle, but it's an involuntary thing that we can't control. I mean, my God, we're just out of control.
Fills with blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really know. I shouldn't say it's not a muscle. That's probably wrong, but ALS doesn't affect it.
Is romance a concern with people that are, first diagnosed, or
are you talking about romance or sex?
Both?
At first you wonder, it's just going to kill my sex life, but it doesn't. One guy in the chat, one of our chat rooms, somebody asked about sex life, and he said, mine's better because now she has to do all the work, so I just lay there.
That's what I'm talking about.
So what do you want me to do, baby? All I can do is lay here. Come take care of me.
All right. Let's see here.
But no, it doesn't. Now I should say it does affect the ability to do sex the way we might want to. There's things I can't do anymore, like just to be honest, with my hands, because my hands don't work. So it changes what you can and can't do depending on how your body is affected with ALS.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Thank you for going down that road. Julio says diseases like ALS often spur discussions about, oh boy, euthanasia.
Yep. I talk about that a lot.
What is your stance on this issue? In fact, it kind of dovetails into, I might as well just read the question I prepared if you don't mind.
Sure.
I do remember hearing about the controversial termination of life laws and such as that. And I did get to watch the movie How to Die in Oregon around 2013 and was simply blown away. I just remember watching that with my wife and it just jaw on the floor. Part of it makes way too much sense. And the other part is a combination of sympathy and empathy of some way, shape, or form. What is your thoughts on the end of life option to act and euthanasia and everything else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular movie. I've seen a couple of documentaries about end of life issues. I work with an organization called the Final Exit Network.
Oh.
And they heard me on a show last year and reached out, and we kind of have a real an official partnership. I just talk about it every chance I get because I love what they do and how they do it. They're not restricted by any laws in any states that have death with dignity laws or don't have. There's only a handful of states that have them. And those laws, they're all patterned after the one in Oregon. Mm-hmm. And those laws, in my view, are too restrictive. For one thing, you got to live there. For another thing, you've got to have 2 doctors sign off on your death window that you have you're going to die within 6 months.
Like 2 weeks apart or something too, or
yeah. And for someone like me with ALS, that 6-month window is not acceptable because by then I'm going to be really way far gone and really incapacitated, and I'm not interested in going that far. The Final Exit Network is not. It's available in every state. They're an organization that helps you. People in my position that are terminally ill, that don't have any chance of getting better. They help you with legal issues, equipment you might need, basically getting me prepared to end my own life whenever I feel like the quality of my life is not acceptable. And I think that's fine.
Yeah. Do you feel better about that? Now, can you imagine, 20 years ago and not even having that possibility? Does that give you some peace of mind that at least you're in control? I would assume
control is the word. You hit it. It's all about control. It's all about having options. In fact, I think statistically, like 20 to 25% of the people who enlist the organization and sign up to use their services never end up using them, but they just want to know that they can.
Okay.
They want to know that they have options, and they want to know that I'm in control of my destiny and not someone else, and I don't have to sit here and wait to expire in some lengthy, painful way.
So, only because you had mentioned that your feature is going to have complications with diaphragm and I'm assuming swallowing. Is there any peace of mind that you're able to, if you wanted to make a date? Because I remember you had to be able to swallow for the Oregon law. In other words, if you couldn't swallow, then you're not drinking the 2 pieces of medicine or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Could you shed some light on that? I guess I'm not.
One of the ways that they with the Final Exit Network is it's not a pill, it's not a medicine, it's some equipment. Essentially, it's a nitrogen tank with a bag over my head.
Okay.
Just to get graphic. And I have to be able, though, to do it myself. You can't help me. So, it's against the law to help someone die. It's not against the law to take your own life.
Okay.
And so I have to be able to turn the nitrogen tank on, and I have to be able to put the hood over my head. and tighten the elastic band. Now, if I can't do that with my arms, then I'm going to have to rig up a way to do that with my legs or some other way. And so that's the tricky part for someone like me, is that I've got to modify the equipment or, figure something else out. Go hang gliding and not open the parachute.
Yeah. Now, I did see a picture of you hang or
parachute. Yeah. Skydiving. Yeah.
What do you think for humans? What do you think this whole business of like, you're not allowed to kill yourself comes from? Because, when we look at our pets and stuff like that, the moment they're in a little bit of pain, it's like, oh, euthanasia. We don't want them to suffer. Let's put them out humanely and not have them suffer. And, why is it different for humans? Why is it just like, oh, we can't go there? I don't understand, because I know I watched this. This thing about this one young girl that had some type of, I don't know the name of a brain tumor, where it was a painful death and it was a for sure thing. And she's like, I want to go out with a certain amount of dignity. I don't want to be a burden, or I don't want to be a living piece of meat. If there's a cure, please tell me about it. But if not, I don't want to wither away to nothing. But like, she got so much backlash for that because she decided like, I want to go out when I'm still have my bearings. I can talk to somebody. I can say bye to somebody. Like, why? Where's the stigma? What causes this with humans, but not our pets?
I think it's because of religion. I think we have a strong religious undercurrent in this country and in many parts of the world. The idea that we are created in the image of God. Well, a dog's not, but we are. So we can put our pets out when they're suffering, but we can't put our people out. And I think it's fucked up. Honestly, I do. I think we treat our pets better than we do our people. And it's not compassionate. It's not kind. It's cruel. And I think it's because of religion. I really do. You can't play God. I've heard that. People have told me that.
And suicide is a one-way ticket to hell, no matter how good you are. And
right.
I agree. I think that's where that most certainly stems from, including like drug overdoses. Usually, it's so funny because the on one side of the mouth, you'll hear religious family people or even pastors or church leaders, condemn like drug use is so bad, until they get paid to have them in their service. And Billy was just he's with the Lord now. Like, that's not what you said last Sunday.
Everybody goes to heaven at the funerals.
Yeah, it's nice. But I don't know if they can print off that many golden tickets. Speaking on, it's hard not to love you, Dave. It really isn't. And I was telling Anthony Magdabasco when we interviewed him on the show, it's like you watch hours of your favorite people and learning about them. It's like, I know more about you than you know about me, but hey, we're talking right now. So after being diagnosed, the word love, what has changed for you about that word? Is it any different before you were diagnosed with the ALS than it is now? And when you, as atheists, we're a little different when we say love and I love, I think there's a little bit more genuineness to a atheist worldview than there is perhaps with love your neighbor no matter what, even though he's an asshole. But has love changed for you after ALS?
That's a good way to put it. That's a good question. It probably has. I'm not sure I'm able to define it or to articulate it. I know that a thing I talk about a lot with Dying Out Loud is the moments and how precious life is and how rare and brief it is, how beautiful it is. So in that sense, everything gets heightened. All your emotions, all your feelings get amplified. And so I probably love more completely and more fully than I did before. I know I do as an atheist. We're told that God loves us unconditionally. Well, that's as far from the truth as you can get. There are lots of conditions on God's love, supposedly. You have to behave, you have to perform. As an atheist, you just love, and plus Christians divide people into lost and saved, and good and bad, and black and white. As an atheist, everyone is just a human. Everyone's just we're all the same, and there are no groups that are in or out or good or bad. And so when that change happened, I became more moral than I was as a Christian. And then when I got the diagnosis a few years ago, all of those ideas and all of those emotions just got ramped up and amplified.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Hey, everybody, we've only got a few more minutes left. So if you do have a comment or a question for Dave, we're more than willing to ramble off a few. Will start us off with, what are your 2-3 favorite cigars?
Excellent.
Well,
Love cigars.
My favorite cigar is the one that's lit and in my mouth. CAO, in terms of brands, CAO, Arturo Fuente, and probably Padron. Well, no, I'm sorry, Monte Cristo, but that's like a premium, and I don't spend that kind of money on it very often. In terms of tobacco, it would be Dominicans, Nicaraguans, and Costa Rica.
All right. Julio says, I was not familiar with Dave's Warnock's before tonight's podcast. I want to thank him for his presence tonight, candid wisdom and humanity, something that is very lacking in today's world.
Amen.
Thank you, Julio.
Say it any better. If anybody else has a couple comments or questions, feel free to do it now, Facebook or YouTube, where it all pops up. Actually, instead of just saying where can people find you, daveoutloud.com, DAVEOUTLOUD, for our audio only people. There is a newsletter people can sign up for, correct, right off the bat?
It's a mailing list. We don't really do a newsletter. I do some video updates. Typing is challenging for me, so everything is voice to text. So anything I can do vocally or video wise is a much easier thing for me. I do a lot of guest stuff like this. I'll be on the Atheist Experience this Sunday.
Sweet.
As a matter of fact. Yeah. So out there.
And is there any social media that you prefer for people to follow your?
Well, I just started on the TikTok a few months ago, and I like that.
About TikTok.
All the things, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the links are at daveoutloud.com.
Okay. Well, Dave, I had to say it. I absolutely love you to death. We really appreciate your time with us today and going over these things. And I'm trying to come up with some questions that maybe people don't hear too often.
You did that. Good job. I don't hear very many questions that I haven't heard before. I've done so many of these over the last couple of years, and I've just, but you did good, man. Good job, Zach.
All right. We treasure you. We're certainly going to follow you on your adventure and looking forward to the memoirs. Obviously, you get to see an atheist experience. Zach, do you have anything you want to say before we jet out of here?
No, I remember just really quick. I don't. It has anything to do with anything. But
shoot. Go ahead. I do have one more. Go ahead.
No, my grandma. I was very close with her. My mom's mother. She went through a lot of complications the last 10 years of her life, and this was a woman of faith. And I watched her lose her faith because she could not believe how somebody would put her through this unknown pain constantly for like 10 years to where she went from a believer going to church every week, maybe 2 times a week, and just completely lose it and just fuck this shit, like it was hard for me. I mean, I come from 12 years of Catholic education, and even though right from the kind of beginning I'm like, I don't know about this, but I know it was something special for her, and to watch her lose it, it was just like,
yeah,
fuck,
So, I'd like
uncalled for 10 years of just constant
that's sad
pain.
I have one last thing that's going to dovetail this because I completely forgot. I pulled a video clip off your YouTube channel that does have a few videos, and this kind of touches that. And also, well, let's just watch the clip. Here we go.
45 minutes and counting, trying to get a poor, sweet child to sleep. Her mind is filled with many fears and worries. Chief among them, that I'm going to go to hell. I would do anything with my life to make sure you don't go there. I just can't stop thinking about it, and I pray for you all the time. She's 8. Fuck religion. This was a post I saw this morning on Facebook by a friend of mine, and I got permission from him to share it anonymously. But this is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Not only talking about dying out loud and living out loud, but talking about the toxic, dangerous ideas within fundamentalism, within evangelicalism. And I'm going to continue to talk about them as long as I can. These things are dangerous. It's horrible that an 8-year-old little girl has to have these kinds of things floating through her mind. The indoctrination that starts at a very young age and oftentimes follows them throughout their whole lives, creating unfounded fears and anxieties that take oftentimes a lifetime to get rid of. It's traumatic, it's dangerous, and it's fucking wrong. And we all just need to speak up. So that's why I do Dying Out Loud. Tour coming to a city near you soon. Follow along. Stay with us. See you soon. Bye.
All right. So
Wow.
that brings a really great closing, I think, simply because of your message. And also, you probably get a ridiculous amount of, those types of reactions. And I guess lastly, other than what you said there, is that something that you have to deal with and say, hey, you brush it off, or do you do the hard, like, fuck this shit?
Brush what off? Like,
well, someone's trying to be a nice and say, I'll pray for you. And
that, yeah, no, I don't. Typically, if it's just I'm praying for you, I just ignore it or say thank you because I know they mean well. But if someone really gets pointed and comes at me with, I'm praying for you because God wants to bring you back, and you're turning people away from Him, and then I will engage them in like manner, and I don't take that very well. I'll just say that I'm not mean to them, but I'm very pointed in my response. Is that you don't know what you're talking about, and you don't have any evidence for what you're talking about. So until you do, shut up.
All right, that's it, folks.
Can I just,
go ahead.
one more, really quick? And I'm sorry, this is the last thing, but it just went through my mind right now. What? I don't even know how to phrase this, but what is this thing that we're doing? For a lot of times you take the God thing out of the equation, and for a lot of people, everything becomes meaningless. But what is it you think that this is? What are we doing? What's the purpose?
You mean life?
Yeah, this thing, sometimes it can be very routine, and there's times of magic, and, there's times of people like, oh, you know what the fuck you're talking about because you don't believe in, religion or whatever. But what is this whole thing you think that's happening? And even with you having ALS,
I'll tell you what I think it is. In fact, I woke up this morning to a message from a follower, but also a friend, a couple I've known for a few years. And he just lost his son to, I think, an overdose, just his 32-year-old son, just last week. And he was talking to his wife, who sent me the message this morning, yesterday, and saying, what's the point of all this? He was just in a place of grief, and pain. And he said, what's the point? We live, we experience a bunch of pain, then we die. What's the fucking point? Like you just said. And then she said in her message, and then he answered his own question. And he said, she said, he repeated some things he's heard from you. And he said, it's all about the moments. It's all about the moments. And that is life. Life is hard. It's short. It's chaotic. It's unpredictable. But buried in this life are innumerable moments that we can enjoy and cause us to revel in the best parts of life, the best things about life, whether it's connection with another human, whether it's a simple sunset, whether it's watching a dog play, watching a child play. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just we have to look for the moments. We have to recognize them. We have to give space for them. And if we do, we'll see them and we'll find them. And that's what makes life meaningful to me.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. Folks, audio or video, Dave Out Loud. Encourage you to follow him on all the different types of social media. We're looking forward to the memoirs and whatever you get to produce, including guest appearance on the Atheist Experience, if you've not seen that. Dave, being a little bit more light-mannered in some cases with Matt Dillahunty, is a little salt and pepper. That always takes good on a steak. So I encourage everyone to check that out. Other than that, thank you, folks. We will see you next week. And hey, find those moments, folks.
Oh, well said, Dave. Well said.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Leave this up here for a second in case anybody needs it.